Yeah.
They have 20 people in the hotel. That's the maximum.
Bang.
It looks like they put it themselves here. They come from here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go.
Next time when I come out, I will fly in from Tel Aviv. Fuck this.
Yeah.
Serious. Fuck this, man.
The part I go to the most.
Well, yes, Zeeland.
Yeah.
Yes, there are a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's where I tend to go in the Netherlands. So.
I was fully stressed. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. I wonder what we were doing, mate.
I think 30 euros entry.
Yeah.
Without a Jordan pass.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way you wouldn't buy a Jordan pass because
I didn't.
He also.
I didn't. It actually goes down quite well, you know.
well, because it makes you look like you're cultured.
Yeah.
Whereas really, all you want to do is get in the pants.
Fucking Roger.
What's this?
Greetings, Uncle Travelling Matt here, and today is I don't know what day it is, 12th day of my trip around Jordan, and now I am back in Israel, or to be more precise, the Palestinian territories. And what you will have noticed is that prior to this kind of summing up bit, there's not been a lot of videos today. And that's, well, there's a reason for that. And I'm going to explain about it later. But first of all, I'm going to show you where I'm staying. So after the absolute dump that I've stayed in for the last 5 nights, I'm in a bit of a palace. So this is the bedroom. Wow. Yeah. And then this is my own personal living room. Okay. Look at that. Woohoo. Lovely. And I got a bathroom through there, and I have a kitchen. And all of this for approximately £20 a night, which is not bad going. Now, you may have noticed a bit of the theme in the decor in this, and that is this chap here. His name's Jesus. I'm going to talk more about him later. We've got a whole array of stuff going on there. This fella, by the way, don't know if you recognise him, he is Saint Charbel, and he is a Lebanese saint, and I went to his shrine last year. So anyway, but going back to the other fella, she's important, she's Mary, that's his mum, and there's Jesus again. And why is Jesus so important in this house? Well, because the people who live here are Christians, but more than that, because the town I am in is the place where he was born. So yes, I'm actually staying in Bethlehem, which I didn't realise when I booked the place, because it just said it was near Jerusalem. And it's a place called, I think it's called Beit Jamal, I think. Or Beit Jabal, I think. Anyway, and yeah, well, whatever. That's where I'm staying, and I took a bus from Jerusalem, and I ended up here in Bethlehem. So I'm actually staying the night in my own fantastic apartment, as it is. That's only perhaps a few meters from where Jesus was born, if the legends are correct. Okay, so that's what I'm doing now. What have I been doing today? Well, the short answer is faffing around a lot and waiting. Okay, so I woke up at a horrendously early time, 7 o'clock. I had a taxi to take me to the border. And it reminded me of everything I didn't like about Jordan, because the rain was horrendous, by the way, this morning. But when I got to the border, it was like, oh yeah, we need 10 dinars for exit tax, and we need 7 for a bus from the border to the other bit of the border, and all that kind of stuff. So that was a bit annoying. But then anyway, I got to the border, went through the border, and then I was reminded about the things that pissed me off about Israel, because we went through the passport control, and then they're like, yes, can you speak to security? And they're like, yeah, we're going to take your passport for a while. Wait there. And obviously, and this isn't the first time this has happened, I'm afraid to say, I've buzzed up on their security radar, okay? And so I was put in the naughty boys corner with 3 other gentlemen. There was a fellow Englishman named Michael, who was travelling alone through Jordan and into Israel. And then there was a Dutch taxi driver named Samir, who had a big beard. And then there was an American named Hassan, who was formerly of Palestinian Arab heritage. So, yes, and we were the people that they thought, they didn't really quite know. They wanted to do a few more checks on. Of course, I know what it was. With Samir and Hassan, I think it's pretty obvious. But what about me and Michael? Well, Michael and I had something in common, and that is both of us have travelled to Lebanon recently. And they were, they asked a lot of questions. Well, have you been to Israel before? And all this, and were very nice, and to be very, very friendly. And then they're like, what about travelling in the Middle East? And they really were drilling down into why were we in Lebanon, what we've been doing there, why were we in Jordan as well, And I think the fact that we travelled a lot in the Middle East, it raised the alarm bells. Michael's story was, one that again, I mean, it's a standard tourism thing, isn't it? You know, I went for tourism, which I did, but Michael's was funnier. It's like, well, I went to buy a bottle of wine, and he's a wine connoisseur, and there's a particular vineyard, the Chateau Moussa, in Lebanon, and they don't sell the wine outside of the vineyard, so he'd actually gone all the way to Lebanon to go to the vineyard to buy some wine. And that's a pretty amazing story, really. And I think they must have believed it, because you just wouldn't make that up. So, yeah, so there we are. So 2 hours later, we got out of there, and we were then had to get a shared taxi, and that wasn't leaving for a while, so we were sat around with nothing to do. Nice little bit. Fancied a coffee. There was no coffee shop. There was no anything. So I had a chat to one of the Israeli staff there. She didn't really understand me, so I said, "Do you speak Russian?" And she did. And we had a good old conversation in Russia, and then she actually took me to the local staff canteen to get some coffees. And the thing is, it was quite funny, because we went in this canteen. It's the kind of ones that like I would go in at work, and all the border guards who've been like dead stony faced and checking us before were all in there smoking cigarettes and having a chat in the civvies. And it was like, so yeah, you were see 2 hours of the same queen. It was quite cool, actually. And then it took the taxi in through. So I should talk about the landscape a bit. So the landscape on both sides of the border is this absolute wilderness, and because it's called the wilderness in the Bible, it is. It really is an absolute wilderness. And it's the same area, of course, where the baptism site was that I went a few days ago. And we got through this wilderness. I thought we'd go through Jericho, but we didn't. We took another road, and it kind of was cut through big, thick cuttings to go straight to Jerusalem. And you can see the changes that have been wrought in the Netanyahu era, and there was settlements on the tops of hills. And I think this road was actually built to bypass the kind of Palestinian settlements, villages, towns, whatever, and go straight through to a very Jewish Jerusalem. And we only saw, Palestinians, apart from the one driving the bus, when we actually got into East Jerusalem. So then we parted, Michael, Samir and I. Because we hung out, this Hassan, they kept him a bit longer. But Michael and Samir and I, we caught the taxi together, and we kind of got on. We had a good time. And I thought, well, okay, what do I want to do? So I wanted to eat, so I did that. And then the one thing that I really wanted to do in Jerusalem this time was to go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and there's a special pilgrimage ritual you can do where you stay overnight. They lock you in the church. And I always thought that would be a worthwhile thing to do. So I did it. And, I didn't do it. I went to see about doing it. They only let 25 people in a night to do it. And unfortunately, all the ones for all the nights that I'm here are full. And the first day they had free was Monday, which is the day I fly out. So I can't do that this time. It's something I'm going to have to do next time. So a bit sad, but I did, I sat and I mused and just took in the atmosphere of the Holy Sepulchre, which I love. I didn't take any videos or photos, because what I want to do is a proper tour of the Holy Sepulchre later. So that's what I'm aiming to do. And then I went up to the Armenian Court. I was going to go to the Armenian Cathedral, but I had a coffee instead. Got talking to a Canadian chap who, in his words, sort of lived in Jerusalem. Basically, he didn't do any work. He was retired, and he was a bit evangelical, but the Israelis would only ever let him stay for 6 months at a time. So then he had to go back to Canada and leave it for 6 months before he came back. So, yeah, okay. And he gave out Bibles a lot in Malawi. He had a lot of photos of him giving out Bibles in Malawi, which is nice. Well, I guess. And then I walked through the Jewish quarter, which is probably the quarter I least know of the old city. And because Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath was starting, and there was all these Jews, particularly a lot of Orthodox ones, making their ways to the Kotel, the Wailing Wall. And I walked with them, and then I, stayed a very short while at the Wailing Wall, and then walked back through the Arab Quarter to the bus station and caught a bus out here and ended up in here. Bit of an adventure getting here because I don't have a mobile phone that I can ring from because it works. So when I got there, they said like get off at this stop, and my host, it's an Airbnb by the way, had shown me the picture of the stop, and then she says it's a 2-minute walk from there. So I went into the shop next to the bus stop. I said like, where's this house? Because show me a picture of the house. And the guy goes, oh, I don't know. Is there a number? So he got the number and he rang up. And he talked for a while. And then he says, oh, I know this woman. He says, she used to be my high school teacher. She was my RE teacher. He says, not that I ever learned a lot because I wasn't a very good student. And he's like, oh, I'll take you there. And so, so I got a free lift to the house, which was really nice. And I say my hostess is actually the daughter. Like, she's starting this as a bit of a business herself, which I think is really cool. But I had a really good chat with the mum, who is interested in studying theology, and she's, as I say, a high school teacher. So we had a really good chat, and it's really nice, and it's just, I just really like it here. My plan tomorrow is, I had this idea last night that I would go to Mount Gerizim, and the thing is, there's so much to do in the Holy Land. There's so many places to go. You can't go to them all. But, I am interested in little niche religions, and Mount Gerizim is the holy mountain of the Samaritans, who, of course, we hear about in the Bible, but nobody knows anything about. So, basically, I'm going to find out a bit about the Samaritans tomorrow. As the Muslims say, inshallah, God willing, I can get there. It's in Nablus, so there'll be a couple of shared taxis to go. But yeah, so that's my plan. But in the meantime, I'm going to relax and enjoy this little town of Bethlehem. Keep travelling.